Welcome to this episode of The Lead. I'm Emily Palizzotto.
And I'm Ashley Weinstein.
Plastic pollution interrupts nature. Sometimes it's too small for our eyes to even see.
The Lead's Nadia Cox shows us the impact of microplastics right here in Alachua County.
Tiny pieces of plastics are found everywhere. These particles, known as microplastics, are defined as plastic less than 5 millimeters long. They take the form of fibers, fragments, films, and pellets. Dr. Maya McGuire is an agent with the Florida Microplastics Awareness Project, a group researching microplastics in our state. She believes we are exposed to microplastics at an overwhelming rate.
We are probably eating, drinking, breathing microplastics all the time as humans, as are all of the other animals on the planet.
McGuire says safety concerns come from the chemicals manufacturers add to the plastic. The chemicals, known as plasticizers, are added to give certain characteristics, such as texture or hardness. When exposed to large amounts of plasticizers over time, they have the potential to interfere with hormone levels in bodies. Despite how widespread they are, experts suggest we can all take action to keep microplastics out of our environment. McGuire recommends cutting back on single-use plastics that add up over time, like takeout containers.
If you keep a container in your car that has a lid on it that you can use you can go out and get it, bring it in and put your leftovers in it and take them home, you've just eliminated something else that would be thrown away.
Keeping microplastics out of nature protects the health of the environment and those who live in it. Nadia Cox, The Lead.
A water pumping permit was granted over a year ago. Spring conservation advocates are picking up efforts to reverse this.
The Lead's Macy Goldfarb spoke with activists about why they're fighting to keep water bottling companies away.
A year after its renewal, a water pumping permit granted to the owners of Ginnie Springs in February 2021 is causing an upset among environmentalists in north central Florida. The permit granted to Ginnie Springs owners Seven Springs Water Company allows for bottled water company Nestle Waters to pump nearly 1 million gallons of Santa Fe River water per day.
I felt very sad to hear that this was something that people could do and that companies could profit from, especially because the Florida Springs are so special to Florida.
The water limit on the renewed permit is for 168,000 less gallons per day than the original permit, which lasted 20 years before it expired. But Nestle Waters, now called Blue Triton Brands, has only pumped water to about a quarter to a third of the previous permit's capacity per day. Now, the company plans to pump enough water to produce 6,000 plastic water bottles every day.
Here you have a river that's already being harmed. You have a community that does not want it. You have almost no benefit coming back to the local community. So what we're saying is that the district should have looked at this permit and said, this obviously is not in the public interest.
Both student and community activist groups are still fighting Seven Springs, Blue Triton, and the Suwannee River Water Management District, who granted the permit. The UF group Stand Up for Springs launched a campaign in January that calls for a boycott of Ginnie Springs. The group's commitment pledge to avoid Ginnie Springs garnered over 170 signatures in the first 2 weeks after its launch.
I think for students, we really wanted to focus on what they could do, because not only is that the people who we would feel most connected to and who we can really message to, but they're the ones who are frequently visiting Ginnie on spring break or just going there on the weekends.
The Florida Springs Council and Our Santa Fe River are two springs advocacy nonprofits that filed a legal challenge against the renewed permit in March 2021. The battle is still ongoing. Ryan Smart, executive director of the Florida Springs Council, calls it a David and Goliath story.
Our story here is just one small piece of that kind of big movement to value our environment the way that it should, and not just treat everything as a resource to be commoditized and sold.
Smart says he doesn't think water should stop being pumped from the Santa Fe River completely, but he said without a much lower cap, the connecting springs will suffer the consequences. Macy Goldfarb, The Lead.
As the weather begins to get warmer, more Gainesville residents are spending time outdoors.
The Lead's Bradley Schimmel and Elise Fuller show us how residents are enjoying their time outdoors with sports, such as Frisbee golf.
As temperatures begin to warm, Gainesville residents are returning to a sport that combines nature with athleticism. Frisbee golf, otherwise known as disc golf, is a game which players must throw a disc at a target. Similarly to regular golf, the The objective is to reach a target in as few shots as possible. Gainesville contains various courses that feature natural elements, which force players to adapt to their surroundings. Frisbee golf player Zachary Flaxman says he enjoys the natural aspect of the sport.
I mean, the whole sport is about nature, you know, like all the holes are in nature. Obviously, it takes nature as a big aspect into it. There's a lot of obstacles like trees and lakes and stuff, and you just kind of got to work around that.
Gainesville's courses will continue to host more players on their greens in the coming weeks.
Remember, you could keep up with us at wuft.org or on our social media platforms. That's it for this episode of The Lead. I'm Emily Palazzotto.
Now over to The Lead Verified. I'm Ashley Weinstein. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to this episode of The Lead Verified. I'm Mariana Larson.
And I'm Jamisha Carroll, and today we're talking green. Mariana, what do you think of when you think green?
I think of all things nature, but more specifically, how nature can benefit us.
Yeah, like how people are starting to eat healthier these days and making the switch to natural ingredients.
One student shows us how to make that switch with her new business. UF sophomore Carly DeLuca just started a new business called Happy Juice.
The Lead Verified's Elena Carly spoke to her about how she manages her new businesses and classes.
A second-year UF student recently launched her own juicing company, Happy Juice. Despite having a full-time course load as she majors in event management, Carly DeLuca took on her second business during the pandemic. The first is an event planning company. It started with picnic planning as events moved outdoors, but now includes weddings and birthday parties. The success of her first business inspired her to take what began as a hobby into her second startup.
This month, I worked at a juice bar in high school and loved it so much. My parents got me a juicer, so I've been making juice for myself since then, but I've been always shared with my friends and family, and people were like, oh, you should sell this.
Each bottle contains 2 pounds of raw vegetables. All the juicing is done locally in Ocala, where DeLuca runs both of her companies. Her sales are currently done online, but she plans to open her storefront in the coming months. Elena Carly, The Lead Verified.
If she has a strawberry juice, I definitely want to try it.
Same. I'm also willing to try the beet juice. Might be interesting.
If you say so. But I'm just happy Gainesville locals have a new plant-based business to go to.
Speaking of plants, did you know that Gainesville is a nature lover's paradise?
What do you mean?
While known as the home of the University of Florida, it also houses a number of nature parks and preserves.
The Lead's Taylor Burt shows us more of these unique and beautiful places.
One of these hidden beautiful gems is the Sweetwater Wetland Park. It's a 3.5-mile-long scenic walk that is a combination of crushed gravel and boardwalks, where you can see hundreds of acres of ponds and wetlands. Hugging the north rim of Paynes Prairie and spanning 125 acres, Sweetwater Wetland Park is unlike any other places you've ever hiked before. Not only is the park a place to connect with nature, but it's a great way to escape everyday troubles and worries. Rain or shine, there are numerous viewing decks to observe Sweetwater's diverse wildlife, including more than 255 birds and species and alligators. Sweetwater provides a great way to get outside and exercise, but it's also a great way to appreciate the beauty of Gainesville. Another hidden treasure is Paynes Prairie Preserve State Park. Pine and oak trees coat the trails and provide a shady and quiet, relaxing time. You can drive, bike, or walk any of these paths, and you'll still get the same experience of the nature either way.
I didn't realize there were so many preserves in our area.
Gainesville residents have a lot to look forward to now that the weather's heating up. And that's the end of our nature episode of The Lead Verified.
Check us out on wuft.org/The Lead or on our social media on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram for more.
I'm Jamisha Carroll.
And I'm Mariana Larson.
Thank you for watching.
Wait, we can't end the show there. It's time for the very first episode of Sports Verified. I'm Will Levinson. My friends call me Big Will. From Frisbee golf to football. Fans of the gridiron have been in for an insane offseason this spring. 9 Pro Bowlers have been on the move, switching from team to team. The latest, Tyreek Hill, has 1.8 million followers on Instagram. He's arguably the most exhilarating player in the National Football League. He pretty much out of nowhere was traded from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Miami Dolphins for 5 draft picks. First, I'm a huge Dolphins fan. I know it doesn't really make a difference, but this is a groundbreaking move for the league. The optics of it are fascinating. For a while, it seemed Tyreek Hill would reach an extension with Kansas City until Devontae Adams, one of the best wideouts in the league, was traded from Green Bay to the Sin City, Las Vegas. He promptly signed the richest deal for a receiver in league history. Tyreek said, wait a minute, I want that deal. So he went out and he got it, signing an even bigger deal worth over $120 million with the Miami Dolphins. The Chiefs shopped Hill for weeks, calling teams left and right. But in the end, it was the Dolphins and the Jets who were finalists, and the Chiefs had agreed the deals with New York and Miami and left it up to Tyreek Hill to make his decision. It just so happens that Hill lives and works out in Miami. That made the decision a lot easier for him. And now the Cheetah is ready to swim with the Dolphins. The trades haven't stopped on the gridiron. In the National Hockey League, several players have been on the move ahead of this year's trade deadline. Longtime Philadelphia Flyers captain Claude Giroux was ready to chase a cup. With the Flyers at the bottom of the standings, he requested a trade from the team that drafted him, and Giroux had his sights set on sunny South Florida. With Giroux's no-trade clause built into his contract, he could only be traded to the place of his choice. Finally, after weeks of rumors, a blockbuster deal was agreed to as the Eastern Conference leading Florida Panthers got a whole lot better. I love the way he acknowledged his goodbye to his 15-year home of Philadelphia. It wasn't a long essay, whole big goodbye, but rather just a simple acknowledgement for the place he called home for so long. In his post to Instagram, Giroux said, I plan to curate a formal goodbye, but for now I wanted to acknowledge this change. Philly will always be a major part of me and my family. This picture seemed fitting. Thank you for absolutely everything. Now for a segment I call Superfan. I'm here with Ping Pong Superfan.
Hold on, wait a minute. It's not ping pong, it's table tennis. It demands respect as it's an Olympic sport.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I'm here with table tennis superfan William Oyo. Oyo, correct? And
that is correct.
AKA Will the Thrill. Now, you are a table tennis expert, correct?
I wouldn't say that I'm an expert compared to my 3 other teammates who are actually going and competing in Round Rock, Texas in April, who are actually competing in nationals.
In nationals, that's incredible. So how did you get involved in the sport of table tennis?
I've been involved in the sport of table tennis since I was 5 years old, playing recreationally, learning how to properly serve. I didn't start training until now, my college years, when I saw that it was going to be beneficial for me. But mainly it's during the holidays. It was a way that all our family would get together for Noche Buena, which is Christmas Eve for you non-Cubans. They would always,
for you non-Cubans out there, right?
My uncle would always put out his table and it would be like, oh, the table's out. Yes, let's go play.
You say that you started training. What would you say training entails for an elite table tennis player like you?
Training for us in the club, we practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 9 to 11 on Mondays and Wednesdays. I'm sorry if I said Tuesday. It was Wednesday. Monday and Wednesday is 9 to 11. And then Friday is our big time, which is we start at
Friday's
7.
big time.
We start at 7 and we end at 10 or 11. And in China, it is 5 hours a day.
What makes Friday big time?
Friday's when end of the week, happy hour, more people want to come and play.
Got it. So a lot of training done for this table tennis sport that you play, and I believe that you're ranked nationally. Well, that's the case. What's your ranking?
I'm 1324 in the United States. The goal is to be 2,000 in the entire United States. I know one of our guys, Nick, who's going to be in my story coming up, is ranked 1920 in the United States, and he has a record of 18-5 in the NCTTA.
18-5, ranked 19 and 20 in the entire country. Will, what is the path to the top 2,000 in the country for you?
The path for me, well, I don't put as much work into it, and the problem with me is that I know what I do, which is that all my shots are flat and I have no top spin on my serve, or no spin, or I need to have intense training. But for me, it's just going out there and having fun, but at the same time, working hard. So I tell my teammates always, I don't care if I make contact with the ball, as long as I make contact on a hard shot, as long as my rubber touches the ball and the ball goes flying off the table, I don't care how it is. I would like to win the point, but if I'm in a position that I'm like that, going backwards, I don't care how the ball touches my paddle. I don't care if the ball goes flying. All I care about is making contact with the ball.
Okay, so one final question for you, Will. What makes you a super fan of table tennis?
What makes me a super fan is that I watch film as much as I can. I try to record. I have my Instagram pages. I contact as many people as I can to see if there's possible sponsorship opportunities for the club. I watch film. I watch the Olympics. I try to study as much as I can film. But I don't study as much as I do for school.
Okay, so school's still the priority, but table tennis right there with it. Thank you again so much for joining us, Will, in what was an intriguing segment about not ping pong, but table tennis.
Yes.
Have a good one. Thank you all so much for joining us on this episode of The Lead.